right. Hey guys, good afternoon. Madhura here from Simply Empowering and Ascendance, and we are here on Money Matters. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you're new to Money Matters, welcome to the show. This is a weekly show that we have where we discuss topics on money, personal finance. It could be in business, it could be entrepreneurs sharing their experiences on how they managed money in their businesses. There's a huge variety of experiences that we have featured here on Money Matters. In fact, I think today is episode 43. So we have had so many guest speakers who come on board our show and share their experiences of managing money, how they are guiding other individuals to do so, and as well as some of the tips that they have for people like us, ordinary people like us, to put into practice so that we can also grow our money and live the life that we want to live. So thank you so much for watching. One of the best things that you guys can do is actually to share out this link with your friends. Invite a couple of your friends to tune in, especially if you're a Gen Z who's tuning in. Because at the end of the day, the purpose of Money Matters is so that you guys get to learn something new about money. You get to learn from other people's experiences and improve yourself in that way. So, if one of the things that we have on this show is we'll feature different guest speakers, yes, and today is no exception. In fact, today is going to be a very, very, very interesting topic. If you are not aware of today's topic, we have Michael Gilmore from, I think, Maya Awards, who is going to be talking about the topic of rebranding financial literacy. I think over the past few days, I've been having conversations with a few people who I work with on finance. And many times when we are working on our finances, a lot of people find it very hard to do so. It's a very hard pill to swallow. It's not so exciting to be saving money. It's not so exciting to I don't know, invest it or put it into a certain place and not touch it and those kind of stuff, right? A lot of us struggle with the boringness of it. But I think what is very important is that we stay consistent, and sometimes we have to find ways and means to keep ourselves engaged, keep ourselves excited, and to learn new things and educate ourselves in terms of finance. So I think that is one of the many things that we were discussing with Michael, and I personally enjoyed our conversation so much. There's so many different things that I personally have learned from this conversation as well. For those of you who are not aware, a little bit of intro on our speaker today. So Michael is actually the research director at Albizia Capital, which is an independent fund management company based in Singapore. They actually focus on consumer-based companies in ASEAN. As I think his previous experiences is quite wide range. I think he was the director of Asian equity sales in HSBC. He was also the director of Asia Consumer and Media Research at Nomura. And one of the parts I absolutely love is he actually wrote a book called Happy Ever After: Financial Freedom Isn't a Fairy Tale. For his He actually wrote this book for his teenage daughter, but then it has been published by Wiley, and I personally am very, very excited to read this book because I wrote a book called Money Matters, and one of the things that I feel like books actually shape a lot of people, and putting your experiences down, making it interesting for different groups of people in different ways. I think a lot of people have done amazing work, and Michael is no exception. He has done so many amazing campaigns. If I'm not mistaken, one of the campaigns that he did is actually doing this $10,000 journal, which is organized by the $7 Millionaire. So here they not only got individuals to buy the journal for themselves, but also to get it for somebody who needs this, youngsters who can get this journal and improve in their financial literacy as well. So a lot of exciting thing, and of course the most exciting thing that he recently has ventured into, that people who are in this scene of financial literacy are quite grateful for. He has launched and established the Money Awareness and Inclusion Awards recently, which is basically trying to recognize people who are in the financial literacy scene, give them the shout out their name and give them a recognition in a way. And currently they're still taking in nominations. So if you watch anyone or you follow anyone in terms of financial literacy and you feel like they have really impacted your life, go ahead and nominate them. All the links I will be dropping into the comment section soon. So we had a very, very nice conversation about making finance something that is exciting for youngsters, and what are some of the things that youngsters like ourselves should know about when it comes to finances, and a whole lot of other things. So we are going to jump right into the interview, and I hope you guys enjoy what we discussed. I hope you guys learned something. If you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat box as well. And I hope you continue following Money Matters, because we are here to share with you guys new experiences, new lessons, and we hope you can learn from other people's experience and grow as well. So let's check out the episode. All right, so welcome everyone, and welcome Michael to the show. Thank you so much for being here. Personally, it means a lot to me that you have agreed to speak on the show. How are you feeling today?
I'm very good, thanks. I'm in Singapore, and things are getting a little bit busier here. I don't know what things are like in Malaysia, but maybe people are getting back, kind of expecting to get back to normal, which is quite nice, right?
Yes, I think things are beginning to get back to normal, and it's nice to meet back some friends and all of that, and go back to some semblance of what it used to be before the COVID pandemic. So I think I have so many questions to ask you, but I think the way we got connected is through the awards that you're organizing, which is the Money Awareness and Inclusion Awards. So I was personally very curious, like why someone with a who has been in fund management and investments and all of that all this while, why suddenly this new change and this new project in creating money awareness and bringing all of these people together in this platform?
Yeah, okay, you're going to have to stop me talking in 10 minutes on this, but it's a long story, but I will. Let me kind of cut to the end of that, and why the awards and why not something else, because I've written 3 books, 2 of them published. The next one will come out in a couple of months. And as I've been working on those books, it's fun and I enjoy it. And they're targeted at very specific groups of people. So one is targeted to migrant workers. The other one is targeted much more narrowly. It's written entirely for my daughter. And then the most recent one is sort of a bit more general. But one of the things I've been doing as I've been looking at that is looking at how we do marketing of financial literacy, and sort of getting to understand the financial literacy landscape. What's out there? Who does what? Who are the stakeholders? Where's the ecosystem? Where is the feedback loops? All those things that exist in other systems, in other worlds. And so while I've liked writing these books, I've also asked myself the question, how impressive would it be if this were a bestseller? And let's say a bestseller, let's say 1 million copies, which is never going to happen. And how happy would I be with myself if I sold 1 million copies? Obviously, I'd be happy. But I would also think, on the planet, I think maybe 6.5 to 7 billion people on the planet are financially illiterate. They don't know enough about money. So if I've sold 1 million, I've addressed like 0.0 something of the problem. Yes. And also, this is the 1 million people in the world buying books. They're not the real problem. You know, they could have bought another book that might have been just as good. So I'm not solving the problem. So I thought, okay, let's actually look at how, like in the way that, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are supposed to do. They walk into meetings, say, what if you could do 10 times this or 100 times this or 1,000 times this? I thought, well, what if I could do something that was 100 times more effective than my book? And I thought, well, it's not going to be my ideas, is it? It's not going to be my efforts. I have to do something else, more inclusive. And that could be, how can we create an ecosystem? How can we create that feedback, that celebration? Because I looked and I don't see anything like this. I don't see an awards for people helping other people learn about money. Now, I'm very lucky. One of my daughters is a film student, and before she went away to college, I think one of the last films we watched together was Parasite, before it was, just as it was first released in Asia. So she went to college in the UK, and she was talking to people about Parasite. They'd never heard of it. And then as it came towards award season, they're like, "Oh, this is supposed to be quite good, this Korean movie called Parasite." She's like, "Yeah, I've been telling you about it for ages." Then it's nominated for the Oscars, and it's nominated in Best Film for the Oscars, and then it wins Best Oscar, Best Film, for like the first ever time for a foreign film. And that's amazing. And it's amazing for Parasite. But have a look at Netflix last year. Squid Game was the #1 show on Netflix last year. A Korean dystopian future film was the #1 thing. That's not an accident. That's the year after, a year and a half after Parasite won the Oscar. What happened, and the Oscars is we all think the Oscars is like glamour and celebrities and, the industry saying, oh, you're brilliant, no, you're brilliant, and all this kind of stuff, right? But actually, it's part of the ecosystem of movies. It's the industry saying, we think this is good. We think that is good. This is how we find things, how we celebrate things, how we promote things, how we encourage good work. That's what we need. That's what we need in financial literacy. So this is how the Mayas came about, was saying, okay, what if we could create the Oscars for financial literacy? Could this become the thing that makes it all bigger, that magnifies the work you do, magnifies the work someone else does, takes it to other countries, makes it more known? Or reverse, maybe you get to see something from Guatemala or Venezuela you would never otherwise have seen and say, look, that actually looks quite interesting. I like what they're doing there. Oh, they won because they're doing this. I'm going to do that now. That kind of idea. And it's simple. I think it's quite simple. And I think it should be fun to do that. So that's sort of bit of a leap. And I've been very lucky because it turned out I have friends that know how to do some of these things. I don't know how to do anything about awards or anything like that. So I've got some friends who I didn't know that they know how to do it. So they've been very, very, very kind to advise me on how to put this together and try and build this. So yeah, that's how you know about it.
Yep. I think it's so true. One of the things we were connected to this 9-year-old girl in Tanzania who is very passionate about teaching kids about personal finance. She has actually written books with regards to words about money and teaching kids about money, savings, and all of that. And she was just 9 years old when she started it. And we got connected through an award that I won back in 2019 as well. So I completely agree. This idea is so true. It will bring together so many people who would not have known each other exist, if it was not for that platform.
I'm going to ask you a favor right now. I want you to send the Maya's website to her so she enters. I want to know all about what she does.
Will do. I think she's an amazing person. So was personal finance something that you were always passionate about? Has this always been something you were interested in? Or is it just something that you saw a problem recently and you have decided that you would like to be a part of the solution?
It hasn't always been. No, not at all. I would say I started working in finance when I was 27, 28. I was a writer before that. I did some advertising, some journalism, and then started working in finance, 27, 28 years old. And I think, I sort of understand where most people are when they're learning about finance and they don't like it because they think they don't understand it.
Yep.
And it's so much of finance isn't catered to people who don't like it and don't understand it. Which it sounds sort of obvious, right? Of course it's not. But actually, the whole world of marketing and commerce and business is about encouraging people to like things they don't like. Whether it's diets or just going down the shop. So buy this, buy that, buy this, buy that, trying to make you like something. And so I was one of those people. I was one of those people that didn't particularly like finance, didn't want to work in it. And then somehow accidentally started working in finance. I was offered a job as an editor for the research team in an investment bank. And I said, I don't really want to just edit. I'd like to actually learn how to become an analyst. So they thought I was the stupidest person they'd ever met, that I was actually offering to do 2 jobs rather than 1. But they took me on. And then I thought I'd get like 2 months to learn the ropes. I should be an editor first and then slowly become an analyst. And they literally went on Monday, here you go see this. And so I had to learn very, very fast, the thing that I didn't think I previously knew. And I think very quickly I went through this 3-stage process. And the first one was this sense that this is actually much easier than I thought. A lot of things in finance are much easier. We think it's all maths and really, really complicated, but so little of it is maths. And so little of it is complicated. So that was the first realization. The second realization was how powerful it all was. You start to look at so many of these numbers and just think, if I make the right decision today, in 20 years' time, the implications of that are so huge, and it just changes everything. And so That was the second part. And then the third sense was actually really angry. That something so simple and so powerful had never been taught to me.
Yeah.
Well, there's no excuse. This is easy, and it's really, really useful. And I just thought, I was in school for 12 years, 13, 14, university for another 3-4 years after that. No one bothered to mention it at any stage, how important personal finance is. And I was genuinely angry. And I suddenly looked around the world and thought, and no one is being taught this stuff.
Yep.
And then slowly in my work as a financial analyst, as an investor, I realized some people actually are taught this. They're the children of billionaires. I mean, and I've heard stories from a number of genuine billionaires who I know because we've invested in their companies and we had these conversations, and they've been sitting at the dinner table with their parents and their grandparents who run these businesses from the age of like 5 or 6 and been involved in business discussions. And none of us get this. They're the only people in the world that get this. And I just thought that's crazy because nothing is complicated. It's all really simple stuff. We could all be doing this at school. We could all catch up with these billionaires. We could all get that skill set.
Yep.
To me, it was just madness. So when I moved to Singapore, I started working with some migrant workers because that seemed the most direct opportunity to do it. But then, as I mentioned, I realized that the stuff I was teaching to migrant workers, my own daughter didn't know. And so that's how I moved into doing those things.
Yep. I'm personally very excited to read the book, so I am figuring out how to place an order on the book that you wrote for your daughter. In your opinion, like with my generation, I think I'm 25 now, so my generation as well as the younger ones who are in school right now, what do you feel is like? I mean, generally, personal finance and what they should know about it is lacking. But is there anything in specific that you feel they should be addressing immediately, if can, right now?
I don't blame young people at all. I 100% blame the teaching. I don't think you can be blamed for not knowing something you weren't told about. That's just crazy thinking to me. So I don't think anything is lacking from young people per se. I think it's lacking from us, my generation, telling you about it. I think the second thing is it's the marketing element that I hinted at before.
Yep.
We still spend too much time trying to teach people, which is sort of forcing them or testing them and not making it seem like something they want. I'll give you a perfect example. I was talking the other day to someone whose job it is to make retiring or retirement funds popular with younger people.
Okay.
I was like, don't even try. What are you thinking? We all know that the word retirement is something that everyone below the age of 40 thinks is something they'll worry about above the age of 40. It's such an old person word. But you could just change it. You just change the word to freedom. It's a freedom fund. You'll be able to use this money to buy your freedom, whether you are 65 or 45 or 35, whenever you have enough money. Maybe it's 75 if you don't put enough in. But this is when you buy your freedom using this fund. And it can be calculated whether it's enough. This is not complicated maths, right? So that to me is what we lack. We lack marketing genuinely valuable concepts. Like, let's not use the word retirement to anyone under the age of 40. It's freedom. It's not retirement. All these kinds of things. Talk about compounding, right? Just say, get the idea of compound, because that's built into the freedom. Right? If the earlier you start, the longer compounding has to work, the sooner you'll actually be free. And I know from the experience with my own daughter, that was the moment that I got her interested, and I thought, okay, this is actually turning into a book rather than anything else. And I was writing her a book because I didn't want to bore her with lectures from Dad, right? So we sort of wrote the book together. She helped me edit it. But the moment she became interested was when she said, hold on, so if I save this amount, I'll be free at this age? I said, yeah, depending on, how well you do in your investments around then. I said, okay, I'm going to do it. That's it. I'm going to do it. And it just immediately went out. And because it was a term that she could understand.
Yes.
It was a term that she could relate to herself. That's what marketing is all about. Is how do I relate that term to myself? Is this something I want? And that's what we lack. That's how we not teach speaking to young people or even old people. It's not separate. There's a lot of old people that are really financially illiterate too, right? And it's just, and all of the financial terms, they're just sort of, so many financial products and services and concepts are left cold and boring. And yet people go out and they spend $30,000 for a handbag from Hermes because the marketing is amazing.
Yes.
Right? We know how to do this, right? We know how to make ordinary things seem really appealing and sexy. We can do that for financial services and financial concepts too. We just need to make the effort.
Yes, I completely agree. I think whenever I say the word retirement to anyone I work with, I lose them immediately. I have to find other ways to keep them engaged in
Absolutely.
this.
Yeah, definitely.
I think earlier you were mentioning like one of the first few things that you learned is that it's not actually that complicated, right? Like investments and all of that is not that complicated, and you can just understand it. But a lot of people, a lot of youngsters that I work with, do come to that stage of like, okay, I want to learn about investments, and then they see that world, it's scary, and then they just step back. Or some of them just do the very standard way of I'll go with what my friend recommends me now. And just sign up for whatever that comes to them first. So
Yeah.
how can we address this issue in a way and make sure that they are going for the right ones and actually overcome that fear or lack of understanding?
It's a good question. Thanks. So it's actually, it's education. So the reason people are making these decisions is because they've had no education in the subject. So they don't know what the building blocks are. And actually the entire investment industry is actually structured in the wrong way to teach. So, I mean, you may not notice this, but I mean, until Jack Bogle came along, there were no index funds. Sorry, Jack Bogle, creator of Vanguard, there were no index funds. The index fund is the right place to start because it immediately buys you total, full market diversification. And so you can be performing at average to the market immediately you start investing. Honestly, do you need to go any further than that? You may never need to learn anything more complicated than buying, big, boring, but but wide and and diversified index fund. So unfortunately, that's not taught as the first building block. But essentially, if education and if finance were taught properly and educational finance taught properly in schools, I think you'd start with, okay, one of the first concepts you'd learn would be opportunity cost, because you learn to build on what you already know and what you're already doing. So step one is a savings account and you get your emergency fund done, right? That's in the bank. You've got that. You've got your emergency fund. Shouldn't be investing until you've got your emergency fund done.
Yep.
Now, once you've got your emergency fund done, you have to look at your emergency fund as, okay, what's my current cost of capital? My current cost of capital is 0.2% that I'm getting on my emergency fund on deposit. Okay, I think I can beat this. Now, what's the correct index for me to invest in? Well, who am I? What is my risk level? Where am I? What are the risks I am exposed to? Am I Malaysian? Am I Singaporean? Am I British? Am I American? Do I need full exposure to all of those local things, or do I need more global exposure? And should I be taking market risk? Is this money that... Now, this is the thing. I sometimes see people write, is this money I'm not worried about losing? That's wrong, right?
Yeah.
If I lost all the money I'd got invested, I'd be horrified. It's just money you don't need access to near term.
Yeah.
Right. So this is right. So the money you don't need access to near term, and maybe you can take like a year or 2 years or 5 years, and you're thinking, ideally, when do I need this money? And then you start thinking, okay, that goes into one of 2 or 3 indices, whether it's your local index or a big global index or the S&P 500. Now, after that, let's just stop there.
Yep.
Do you really need anything much more complicated than that? That is you at like 95 to 98% of the way towards where you need to be. Right? I mean, a lot of people don't beat those indexes. So a lot of professionals don't beat those indexes. So to add any complexity onto there, you should be taking your time and understanding. And the perfect way to do that is to look at those indexes and say, okay, how did it perform? Why did it perform? Could I have foreseen this? Could I have bought banks? Could I have bought this market? Should I have bought more tech? Did I know I should buy more tech? Am I looking back, as my friend calls it, am I using Captain Hindsight to look in the rearview mirror and say, oh, I knew tech was going to go up? Right, all that kind of stuff. And then we can learn about ourselves. And this is one of the things I think is most missing in finance and in education, is finance is one of the best places to learn about yourself. It's like, am I the kind of person that thinks I know what's going to happen in the future, even though I don't? Am I the kind of person that just thinks I hear things from friends and just go, yeah, I'll do that? You learn about yourself, and that's just as valuable as the investment decisions you make. So I think but people can't do that because they're not taught the basics and the fundamentals, like opportunity costs, like emergency funds, like paying off debt. They're not taught that in schools. So they're building on nothing. There's no foundation. So they just hear something from a friend, and it's just like, it's all shaky information. And that's why it's so important this must be taught in schools. And right at a very early age, so people can feel comfortable and confident making the big steps towards being in an index. And then they can play around from after that.
I love that, especially because you started with get your emergency funds right before you go into investing. Because the biggest problem I see with anyone I work with is they are so excited to jump into investing, but they have no savings or very bare minimum savings. And it's very, very concerning that they are entertaining the idea of going into investments already. Okay, I'll get over that. I think the other thing I wanted to talk about is how do you see the investment world, or how finance works change over the next 10 years? Because the ones who are in school right now, Generation Z, I think by the time they are going to enter the working force, things are going to be completely different. So what should the Gen Zs or students who are studying right now, but when they come out, things are going to be different? How should they be preparing for the future in a way?
Okay, so I just said I don't know how to predict the future, right? So, or I didn't say that, actually. I said I was a bit scathing about people who think they do. So I'm not going to predict the future. What I'm going to say is that the human experience, as long as there have been humans around, has been the accumulation of information. There's more and more and more information all the time. And that's not, and the pace of it is accelerating. So there's gathering more and more information constantly. Essentially, what I'm saying is things aren't going to get less complicated at any point in the future. They're only going to get more complicated. And so what I would say is this is why it becomes even more important to understand the basics, because once you understand the basics, you can actually, because none of it's very complicated. It's okay. That's not true. Some of it's really complicated. I don't go anywhere near that stuff. I can't understand a quant fund. I don't know how they program their computers. I'm not even sure most of them do. Those bits can be very, very complicated.
Yes.
But most bits of finance just actually aren't. They're about understanding the core parts of it very well and operating on those fundamentals. And that's my day job. That's what we do. We try and understand companies. We try and understand companies that we think other people aren't looking at. So we try and learn a bit more about them. So we think we have an edge. That's my day job. And I don't think investing should ever be much more complicated than that. And so I think that's really, but it's about having that fundamental understanding of what makes a good investment and what is your investment horizon? What is your investment outlook? What is your goal from that investment, and understanding all these things. And those things can be taught very easily and very quickly and understood very quickly. And they're just not. I mean, to go back to the original thing, they're just not properly taught. And I've even had arguments on the trading floor of investment banks with people that I think don't understand investing. And just said, look, you're looking at it the wrong way. That's actually not how you do this. And they looked at me like, what? It's like, of course I understand investing. Look at me. I'm wearing a nice suit and I'm surrounded by people shouting on the trading. No, you don't understand. And I think that if you build those fundamentals in at a young age, just understanding what, the cost of capital is, what the growth is, how growth versus inflation, how markets actually price things. Here's a good one. My oldest friend, we were discussing house prices in the UK some time ago, and he was like, "Oh, yeah, price of houses always go up." And I said, "That's not the price of houses going up. That's the value of your money going down." He's like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "That house didn't change. It's the same house. You can only live in it. It hasn't changed value. It's just it's gone up in price." But it hasn't. Essentially, all that's happened is your money now buys less house. So your house has gone down in value. It's about being able to understand these kinds of concepts just coldly and just say, you know what? Yeah, that's true. I'm buying less house than my money, not my house has gone up in value. And be able to look at these things and be able to move these things around. I don't think there'll be anything in 10, 20 years that's so different. Even crypto. And I'm going to struggle on this a little bit because I don't fully understand it. I'm new at crypto. Of course I am. I'm old. No one old understands crypto. But I've used my own sort of processes to try and understand it better, to actually understand, okay, who am I? What am I doing? What do I think about crypto? What do I think about crypto is true? What do I think is false? The blockchain is obviously incredibly powerful. How does that interact with cryptocurrencies? Should I be getting involved? Should I dollar cost average into crypto, or should I be plunging in at the bottom, hodling? Should, all this kind of rubbish, right? What are the ways we actually look at it properly? So even as an old person, you can look at new ideas and say, okay, how do I get involved here? How do I understand what I'm doing? What's the correct exposure for me? So, and I think, once you understand the basics of investing, once you understand what your risk parameters are, what you need, what risk parameters you need, then you can actually engage with these things. But all of this comes down to understanding the fundamentals, and that's just why people have so many problems, because they're never taught. We're taught stuff we don't need instead. We're taught, how oxbow lakes form in rivers, right, by geography teachers, and yet none of us need to know this.
Yes.
And at the same time, we could learn cost of capital, we could learn opportunity cost, we could learn so many other things that are actually valuable, and that we could then, when we're out in the world, someone saying, "Oh, you should buy this coin," you'd be looking again, and you can make a decision. That's just speculation. I don't need it. Or you say, you know what, I'll take that risk because the rest of my portfolio looks this and this way and it looks pretty safe, and I can take that additional risk. But those are the sort of thought processes that you need education to be able to have.
Completely agree. What baffles me that we know more history and geography than these basic life skills in a way. I think because of you organizing these awards and all of that, you would have definitely begun to see the kind of work that is being done in the financial literacy scene. And how do you feel people who are involved in this industry can improve what they're doing, other than, of course, the marketing aspect of it and actually making it appealing to people? How can we work together better, and what should we be addressing that most people are not really looking into?
I think I'm actually trying to do a lot of it myself. I think the number one thing is the marketing.
Yep.
The second thing about marketing is, of course, that people often marketing is like a bad word, right?
Yes.
But actually, if you think about when marketing works really, really well, they've thought about who their customer is and what their customer is. There's actually quite a high degree of empathy. So in the process of writing a good advert, is you think, okay, who is the person reading this? What is their emotional state when they read this? What do they want to feel? How can I make them feel the thing that I want them to feel, so that they then buy my product? And I think that understanding of who you're talking to is actually the other thing that financial literacy can do. Is it's part of that marketing process, is understand this customer. One of the things that I keep my name out, my picture out of a lot of things I do, because I look like a typical guy working in finance. And I think that, there's been plenty of guys that look like me working in finance who've tried to say, yeah, you should all learn finance better. And it doesn't work. And it's much more important that people that look like you, young and energetic, don't look like you work on a trading floor, come along and say, I can actually talk, because the people that look at you and the people that look at me, there'll be two different audiences that will listen to us. And that's what we need. We don't just need one audience. You shouldn't be talking to everyone. I shouldn't be talking to everyone. We should be talking to our own people and saying, look, we can learn these skills. And that's so much a part of being able to just understand things. I think the second part of it that I worry about, and because I do talk about it, should be in schools. This is where I sort of worry is if it does get into schools, teachers will try and set exams for it. And the moment you start setting exams for things, it does two things. You start teaching things you don't need to learn because they're examinable. And secondly, it discourages the kids who aren't good at it. And this is not what we need. We just need everyone to learn this. That's it. I don't care if someone scores a 10 or a 2, right? What actually matters is they walk out of that class and they're able to go, I know why I need life insurance, and I know when I need it, and I know how to buy it. That's what matters, right? And so that's the other side of things. It's because when we talk to people like us, and we're in the industry, there is no industry, but I guess I suppose these. Sorry, I'm pointing the wrong way. That way, right? These awards, they're industry awards, so we now have an industry. When we talk to people, we sort of think of ourselves as teaching it, but I don't want to think of us teaching it. I want us to think of helping people learn it, because it's a very different thing. When you care about teaching, it's like I'm going to stand up and I'm going to say what I want to say. Whereas I realized when I was working with my daughter on it that I didn't care what it was that I had to say. I didn't care who said it. I just wanted her to learn these few things. And if I knew that if she learned these few things, she'd be fine for the rest of her life. And I was like, that's all I know. I just want her to learn them, not me to teach them.
Yes.
I know, weird, right? It's a slightly sort of looking glass, because aren't they the same thing? No, they're not. They're totally different things.
Yes, completely agree. I think one of the things I personally have been learning is like you need to see each person has a different way of looking at things. Some, if there's an element of fear, they are more interested in learning and getting things done. They don't want to go into depth, so they will actually listen to what you have to say with regards to financial literacy. But then there are some who are super risk taking, and that is not if you insert fear into it, they are not really interested to listen to you. So you have to customize your message based on the crowd as well. Yes,
exactly. I remember the first time I really understood how much because I went 1 week. I went from working with migrant workers, and very much when I was working with migrant workers, I was trying to step into the background because I didn't want to talk about. I wanted them to talk to each other about, and so they could compare their best tips. But then, like the next weekend, I was talking to a group of people who were like advertising designers and copywriters and creative industry people. And I realized that I would have to say something to them that would make me think that I'm on their side. And they were all kind of older. They're maybe 30, 35, 40. But they're at a class talking about personal finance, which means they must have concerns. They probably got fears. And with those older crowd, it was about thinking, okay, what are their motivations? Who are they? Do I just go in and start talking about finance? I said, no, I've got to understand the thing that they will be thinking that makes them think, I'm not going to listen to this guy. And if I can find the thing that makes them think that, and then say the opposite, then they'll listen to me. And I realized that the thing that they would think about me would make them stop listening to me, is it's your fault. It's your fault that you're in the situation you're in.
Yes.
So I just started by saying, I know you think it's your fault, but it's not. It's not your fault that you've got no money. It's not your fault that you're in debt. It's not. I know you think it's your fault because you spent all the money. No one else did. But actually, no one told you not to. No one told you could be doing something else. And the moment I did that, everyone looked at me and went, that's true. And then I said, but we can learn now. And we can learn how to do things differently. So starting today, we can move forward without worrying about what's happened in the past and thinking it's our fault. And it was just, that's what I see being so important in all ways we do. It's not that one phrase, but finding that little thing that we need to encourage people along the path.
That's beautiful. I think I'm gonna keep that in mind whenever I speak to somebody else moving forward. We are coming closer to the end of time. So one of the things I want to know more about is also the awards that you're organizing. If the people who are watching Money Matters right now would like to stay in touch and like see what are the different talents and initiatives that is coming out of this, how can they follow the awards?
So the Money Awareness and Inclusion Awards. So it's maiawards.org is the website. We call it the Mayas, which is actually the name of my other daughter. So she gets to be involved. Both daughters get to be involved.
Okay.
But we have, obviously, there's pages on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We intend to, the moment LinkedIn is the most busy because we're very new. We're barely 2 months old. And at the moment, we're building sort of the professional element, the people like yourself, who are practitioners. Over time, we expect to build an audience of people who just want to know more about personal finance. But the way we'll do that is we'll talk about who the winners are and what they teach and how they teach it. And that will hopefully then become like a database and a guide for people who are looking at different places and different concepts. So that's what we'll do over time. But yeah, we'd love just to hear from people who either, I mean, one of the things we've done in the awards is we've made it possible to nominate someone else.
Yes.
So let's say you've seen a book you really like, or an influencer you really like, or anything at all you've seen. You can just go in and nominate it, and we'll need the email address of the person you're nominating. So you can send it to us and send us the email, just because we're not going to accept just a blank nomination because it may not even exist. We'll need to be in touch with the person that's being nominated. But let's say you say, oh, I think the real Matura is the best influencer doing XYZ. They nominate, and then your email address, and we'll contact you and say, okay, you've been nominated. We'd like you to complete the rest of the form. So it's open to people who just seen something they like. That actually came about because one of the categories we have is for the best teacher. And we just figured teachers aren't going to nominate themselves.
Yes.
Right. And we just thought, that's up to students. They, and I've seen it myself. The book that I wrote that was published last year, a teacher in Singapore bought 60 copies for the kids graduating his couple of classes. And he didn't know I was in Singapore. He literally just wrote to me and was like, how do I get this many copies? I don't think I can get them on Amazon. Can I get them from you? And I'm like, yeah, I'll drive them around to your school. He's like, what? You're in Singapore? So yeah, I think it'll save us a bit of money if I just drive them over.
Yeah.
But that kind of activity, I think, is going on everywhere in the world. There are teachers who look at the curriculum and say people should know about money, but they won't nominate themselves. And so we just want people to be out there nominating stuff. So that's the best thing anyone can do to stay in touch with what we're doing is think about people to nominate. We will also, when the judging is open, we'll have some of the categories will be open to public voting. Not all the categories, but some of them will be open to public voting, because we want to see, some of it is like, we want to see what people like.
Yeah.
What they think is interesting, what they think is, so we will have some of that too.
Perfect. So guys, I will drop the link in the comments. You can actually click and check it out, and I think follow the social media pages so that you can keep in touch as well. I think to wrap it off, I just want to ask one final question. Most of the ones who view Money Matters are students. They are either in high school or they are going into college and universities. So what is one final word of advice that you can give to all of our audiences who are viewing today?
Oh, I can tell you immediately, the thing that everyone my age, when they learn about basics of personal finance, they say, I wish I'd started this when I was 20.
Yes.
Or whenever. It's all about starting early. Everything is about starting early. So that's the simple tip. There's no complicated tip. It's not buy this, buy that, invest in XYZ. It's just start. If you start, and because you have to start investing by saving. So you start saving, get that emergency fund going. And once you've got that emergency fund at a reasonable size, then start investing. It might seem really small and boring to start with, but that's probably a sign that you're doing it right. Unfortunately, it's just the nature of exponential growth. Everyone thinks exponential growth is like a steep curve, but it actually starts like this, and only later does that. It always starts flat. It always starts boring. But the thing is, if you start at 20, the boring bit is between 20 and 30. Then between 30 and 40, it gets a little bit more interesting, and 40, 50. And then between 50 and 60, it's like going up 10 times, 20 times what you put in to start with. If you wait until you're 50, you've got the boring bit there. It goes up like 30%. So what the hell, why did I bother, right? That's why you start when you're 20. So that's the ultimate tip, is just, it's great that you're talking to young people, because they're not going to know. They're literally just not going to know how much benefit they're getting by starting today. So it's great that you're talking to them.
Thank you. I think, Michael, it was such an honor to have you here, and it was so much of fun talking to you. I think personally, myself as a youngster, I've learned a lot on what I should be looking at, and I'm more excited to continue my journey of inspiring people in terms of their journey in personal finance. So thank you so much for being here.
And you know, can I say one more thing? I'm really sorry, because I know you just wrapped this up.
No.
What you just said, I think, is the other thing that people miss. If you learn how to invest, you can do crazy, interesting, fun things with your investing. You know, it's like 2-3 years ago, I invested in a movie, and it's been such an adventure for me to do that. You know, not a lot of money. It's money I could risk. And it was just, I had to learn new things. And that's, if you can learn the basics of finance, it can be interesting and fun and exciting and inspiring. And that's, if you start young enough, you can learn all that, and you can make that kind of progress. So I think that's why it's so wonderful that you teach these young people. I'm glad you thought it's exciting and interesting, because too many people think it's boring, and it can actually be really, really exciting.
Yes, completely agree. For all of you who are watching, I think you take the advice and actually start today if you have not done so already, and have fun in the process as well. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next episode.
Thank you.
Okay. So that was my conversation with Michael. I think you guys would have definitely learned a lot from so many things that he shared. I think towards the end, he actually shared about how actually investments and all, there's a lot of different things that can be done, how he invested into a movie. But to do all those exciting things, you have to get started first, and of course, do your basic stuff first, get those right, and then you'll be able to explore this huge, exciting world where you can help a lot of people, you can build a lot of amazing things, and truly leave your mark in the world in a way. So all of you who are watching, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope you continue tuning into Money Matters. If you enjoyed today's episode and you want to continue learning how you can invest your money well, what are the things that you must look into, all of that, what we have in store for all of you is a Telegram group where you can access all of our future episodes. You will get the invite for these episodes in this Telegram group, and the links will be sent there directly, so that you do not miss any of the episodes. So I'm going to drop the Telegram group link in the chat box, so that if you're keen, you can join us and you will get the updates in that group. So thank you so much once again for joining us. There's a lot of exciting things that's happening. To know more about the topics, you can actually follow me on my social media, the Real Madhura on Facebook, as well as on Instagram. We also have a book. I'm not sure if you guys are aware. I wrote a book called Money Matters, also the same name as the show. Money Matters, the Guide to Finance and Life for Gen Z. The printed edition is actually already available. You just have to go to my website, madhurak.com, and you can purchase a copy of the book. But let's say if you are not in Malaysia and you would still like to get a copy, follow my Facebook or Instagram, and stay tuned, because we are coming up with the ebook and audiobook edition, so that you guys can enjoy listening. I don't know about you guys, but nowadays I absolutely love listening to audiobooks more, because I can do that while I'm driving, while I'm going for a walk, and all of that. So if you are interested, stay tuned, follow my social media, and we will keep you guys updated on that. Thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you guys in the future episodes. Madhura signing off.